All right. Well, hi, Stacey. Thank you so much for joining me today in our discussion about A World Without Heroes.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Sure. You liked it, I'm
I
guessing.
did. I did.
Tell
I
me
was really,
what it was that you liked about it.
it was so exciting, and it reminded me of the books that I read when I was a kid and how into them I could get. And this was a book that I hesitated reading or offering to my kids to read. So that was my purpose for reading it this go round. And I was really excited when you offered to do this as a blog entry.
And I think I remember you mentioning on the blog that you had some hesitation initially because you're worried about the level of violence that you thought might be presented in the book, and you didn't necessarily want your son listening to it until you had previewed it. Is that right?
Absolutely. I was a little bit freaked out, but I didn't learn about the violence until after I'd purchased it. And so it was kind of like as an afterthought, the person in the store was saying that it's just like Aragon, but more violent. And I thought, oh no, what does that mean? So I'd held on to it.
What was your conclusion with respect to the violence?
I did not think it was a problem at all. I was a little bit surprised to even hear it described that way. The rest of it I thought was very suspenseful and really created that great struggle between the hero and the nemesis, kind of those kinds of characters.
Okay. And so let me ask another question. Now that you've listened to it and you feel like, wow, it really wasn't as violent as you had anticipated. In fact, I didn't think it was violent at all. Would you recommend it for your son and for your daughter?
I would definitely recommend it. My daughter has read The Hunger Games, and I felt like that is a great book, and it's not even close in comparison to the way the violence is described in this particular book. This is definitely on the order of swashbuckling, sword fighting kind
Okay,
of.
all right. Time out because I'm laughing a little bit because in my opinion, I thought that the Hunger Games books were gratuitously violent. They were my biggest issue with the books. And in fact, if you watched or looked at any of the reviews that I wrote or submitted post-books, post-movie, I preferred the movie over the books because it was less violent. So I'm a little bit surprised that you were concerned about the Beyonders series because of violence when it's like not at all violent. So tell me a little bit more about that. Is there a double standard for son versus daughter?
You know, I take that opinion from what I read in fifth grade, which was Animal Farm.
Okay.
And that was very political to me. And I understood through those characters the way politics and society was created in the Hunger Games. I saw the movie after reading the book. Highly recommend the movie after reading the book. I don't think you get the same thing from it, but that was just my opinion. And about the double standard, I don't think so, but I'm willing to concede maybe. I'll have to think about that.
So just some food for thought, and we can have that as another discussion because we are here to talk about The Beyonders, Brandon Mull's book, first in the series, the Beyonders series, A World Without Heroes. So I think we fairly established and are in agreement that they really are not violent at all. And I also appreciate what you've mentioned as far as his establishment of right versus wrong, dark versus light, hero versus nemesis. There's this constant struggle that really is internal for the two main characters, Jason and Rachel, who meet up in this other world. To give folks a little bit of a preview, they are from, modern day America, but they suddenly get transported into this other world and find themselves on a quest. And it's a life or death issue for them. They have to make this choice. Are we going to try and find our way back home? And the way back home is really through the quest. It's through this discovery of how do we attempt to take down or to displace this evil emperor. And in the process, I think there's a whole lot of learning that goes on for them and a lot of personal growth for these two young people?
I really enjoyed it. And I think that whole struggle and that journey that Rachel and Jason are on is what kids in this age group are going through with the control the parents have over their lives and how much control they have. And I just think that dynamic is fantastic for them to sort of approach in a book with characters in a whole new land. And it gives them a lot of opportunity to see themselves in a different way and figure out what they would do versus what the characters are doing, and then have that sort of conversation with themselves, which is what I found most valuable about this particular book.
I'm really excited for books 2 and 3. Now, we already know Brandon Mull's website tells us that there are only going to be 3 books total in this series, so it'll be a trilogy. And I'm really looking forward to reading the next 2 books. The first book was a little bit vanilla. While it was entertaining, I felt like it wasn't enough. Like, I wanted more action. I wanted more violence. I wanted it just to be a little bit more on the edge of your seat than it was. But I say that because I liked it. So I don't want to give the impression that it's not worth a read, because I think it is, and I think it's laid the foundation for what's yet to come, where it's going to probably pick up in action a little bit more in books 2 and 3. So I'm looking forward to that. One last question, and then we're going to wrap this up. One of the points that I think is really very much present with us as far as what our young people are facing is the kinds of friends that we're choosing and how we choose our friends, because they encounter a lot of different characters along this journey. And while some of them you think face value, they're wonderful and can be trusted, it turns out that's not always the case. As a mom, how do you feel about how that went in the story compared to what your kids are going through?
I absolutely love that aspect as a mom. I think that's one of the talking points that you can have with your kids if you've read the book or listened to it as I did. And that's definitely something I think my daughter would pick up on in the book. And I think even though the particular character you're referring to still tries to help them, he's a little bit ambivalent about what his role is, too, and he recognizes that there's a little bit of subterfuge there, but for good reasons.
All right, well, we'll leave it at that. We don't want to give any spoilers. So let's do this. Thank you so much for talking with me today about Brandon Mull's A World Without Heroes, the first in the Beyonders series. You listened to it on audio. I read the paper book version, and they were both equally entertaining and exciting. We'd love to hear what your opinions are. Have you read the book? Let us know. What did you think about it? Are you going to read the next one? And Stacey, we appreciate you coming on board. Stacey is owner, purveyor of PaloozaOnline.com. It's a tween girls clothing boutique that you can find her again at PaloozaOnline.com. We appreciate so much the time that you've given us today. And if you haven't yet, check out this month's book of the month, which is Shipbreakers. And I am loving it. If you liked The Hunger Games, it's another one of those dystopian-themed, styled, really fast-paced. It's a standalone book. It's not in a series, so I highly recommend it. Again, Stacey, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you online at 10to20.com.
Excellent. Thank you.